Welcome to the Guitar Learning Show. I'm Bob.
And I'm Kevin.
And today we're going to take a look at two kind of mid-range Stratocaster style options. One Stratocaster style. We'll take a look at the Sire S7 and the Fender Player Series II.
Well, oh, and if you would like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, we'd really appreciate it. And that would help other people find our videos.
Yep,
thanks.
Absolutely.
So we have these two guitars that are kind of mid-range, as Bob said. They're very similar, and we wanted to present to you guys the difference in the specifications and maybe the playability and how they feel and things that we like and don't like about each of the guitars. Yep. And you could get a feel for whether you might want the Fender Player II versus a Sire.
Exactly. So let's start with taking a look at the Sire. The Sire is kind of compared to, obviously, the Fender Stratocaster, the Sire is the new kid on the block.
It is. Do you want to run through the specs, or do you want to go from memory?
Sure. Let's go through the specs. Okay. So it is an alder body with gloss polyurethane finish. It's a heavy metallic flake. It's Sherwood Green is the name they're giving it. It's kind of, I think, Sire's take on Sherwood Green.
Yeah, to me, Fender Sherwood Green is, to me, the standard of Sherwood Green. Yeah. This is definitely different.
Yep. Yeah, but it's great. I love green guitars. It's a great looking green guitar. The neck is a roasted hard maple with a roasted maple fretboard. It's a C-shaped neck. It's the standard 25.5-inch scale length, 22 medium jumbo frets. The Sire has a bone nut, an actual bone nut. And one other difference, we'll get into the more differences in a little bit, but has the abalone dots, which are nice looking, definitely. And then it's an HSS configuration. So single coils in the neck and middle and a humbucker in the bridge position. And the humbucker has a split. It's a push-push split on the tone pot. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard 5-way Strat switch, so you can go neck and middle, middle and bridge, and then just bridge, and then you've got the split on the humbucker. Has a 2-point tremolo with block saddles, and a push-in tremolo arm, as opposed to the more traditional screw-in arm.
Yeah, and it stays in there really well.
Yeah, it stays in position well, too.
Yep.
So, do you want to take it through some tones? Or actually, if you turn it around, one other big thing here is locking tuners.
Yep.
So the Sires come standard with locking tuners, and there is a cutaway both on the back and on the front around the...
It's got that PRS scoop going on.
Exactly.
Can I say PRS?
And it has a little bit of a... I don't know if it's going to be easy to show on camera, but on the back and the neck plate, the body flattens out a little bit to get rid of some thickness there. If you turn it sideways, it kind of the body kind of cuts at an angle.
Schecter does this too with some of their guitars, actually with most of their guitars that I know of.
And it just makes it a little easier when you're playing up in those higher frets.
Yeah, you can kind of see where the neck plate is, like you were talking about, where it kind of angles. Yeah. Yep. And it's got a rolled fretboard.
Very nicely rolled fretboard. That's kind of one of the things that Sire uses to differentiate themselves, is all of their guitars have, I think they call it a comfort neck, but the edges are rolled. It's got a really great worn-in feel and makes it really great to play.
I think maybe I'll take that from you, that guitar, and we'll talk about that one, and then we'll go through tones.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Let's take a look now at the Fender. This is the Player II series, which was just recently released. It's also an alder body, gloss polyester finish. It is a maple neck with a rosewood slab fretboard, 9.5-inch radius,
And that's fairly satin, that neck, which is
Yeah, it's so they've done something a little different with the finish. So I have a Player One series, and the back of the neck is pretty glossy still.
okay.
This is very much a satin on the back, and then they still gloss the front of the headstock, so you still get that nice shiny look on the
Yeah.
front of the headstock.
Yeah, which is kind of like the previous Ultra series. They had
Yeah.
that kind of gloss on the headstock.
Absolutely. It is 22 medium jumbo frets as well. The nut on the Fender Player II is a synthetic bone nut,
Okay.
as opposed to an actual bone nut. White dots. Also HSS with no split on the humbucker. So you can't coil split the humbucker. But unlike the Sire, which is one volume, one tone, this has separate tone for the bridge, the neck in the middle, and then a separate tone for the bridge pickup as well. So this is, well, oh, also actually one other thing to point out is this is more vintage style tuning machines with kind of the split front, and they're
Those are
not
what,
locking.
the select gear tuners?
Yeah, they call them the classic gear.
Classic gear. Man, I just want to rename everything. All right.
Now, the Fender sticks to their traditional. It is a 2-point trem with bent steel saddles, but a screw-in tremolo arm, as opposed to the push-in. So, and then the body is just classic Stratocaster, right? There are no extra carve-outs, no comfort carves around the neck. The edge where the neck bolts on, that's full thickness.
Yep.
So there's no angling or anything like that. It still plays pretty well up at the high end, but it's definitely vintage Stratocaster, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
All righty. Give that back to you. Maybe play it a little bit. Play them both. See what they sound
let's go
like.
through some tones.
Yeah. Okay, that's the neck position. I'm playing through the Bad Cat Cub amplifier. I've got some reverb on, and no pedals yet. That's not true. I have my compressor on. That's it.
Okay.
At the moment. So.
And then this is neck position?
This is neck.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the neck position. Let's hear the bridge clean. It's kind of quiet when you just play the single coil in the bridge.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly play something, and all right. Well, that's enough fooling around with just that single coil.
So that was the single coil on the bridge.
Yeah, that's the single coil on the bridge.
It's pretty much impossible to split that humbucker and keep the volume the same. Very few people do
No,
it
you would probably need
well.
to turn it up,
Yeah.
and I guess it's a nice feature to have.
Yeah, I'm not a big coil split
I don't
guy.
use it.
Right. Yeah.
And I have a few guitars that have a splittable humbucker in the bridge, and
Yeah. So this will be the full humbucker.
Full humbucker. And just for fun, we'll put a little dirt on it and see. Well, the tumness is new.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds great.
It's hard to hear it this close.
Mm-hmm.
Charge for that?
We'll find out.
That's still with, okay, sorry, I didn't say. That's the middle position. I've still got the Wampler tumness pedal on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, it does sound great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and obviously much cleaner without the pedal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should hear the.
Yeah, let's take a look.
I don't know. We played enough on this?
I think so. I think we've got a good feel for what it's. Okay, now let's take a look at and a listen to the Fender Player II series.
There you go. Then we could talk a little bit about the differences between the two guitars, and including the price and just some of the things that we might prefer on one over the other, that type of thing. So we're in the neck position. And as soon as I started strumming that G chord, it just sounded like a Fender Stratocaster to me. Like,
it's
just, you know.
They've done a really great job. People don't want to hear us talk; they want to hear the guitars. But they've done a really great job with the Player series, getting these sounding like just classic Stratocaster pickups.
Yeah. Love that reverb on that.
Yeah, the Bad Cat, and if you've seen our review of the Bad Cat, this Bad Cat Cub, it has a digital reverb. It's not a spring reverb, but it is just fantastic.
I can't stop playing it. Like I've got a few other really nice amps that I just
Yeah.
haven't used much since I bought the band. But I definitely digress. Back to the Fender.
Yeah. Yep.
Back to the Fender. Okay, let's try
So
this
one of the
with
things-
a little. Oh,
No, you're gonna. I know you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
go
play
to
with
the
a little dirt.
Yeah, okay, let's do a little dirt. And actually, this was a comparison. We'll do the comparisons.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the tumnus just so we pretty much have this similar sounds
Yeah.
from one pedal to the other.
And there won't be a split on this because the humbucker on the Fender does not split.
No. I got anything else?
No, I think that sounds great. I mean, you've got a good guitar going into a great pedal into a fantastic amp. It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what.
So now we'll check out the. This is some. This is still the tumnus. And then the
let's do clean first.
Okay. And then the humbucker.
Yeah, a little bit of clean and then the humbucker. All right, I'm ready for some dirt.
All right, that was the tumnus.
So that's
Sounds great.
the bridge pickup with a little dirt.
And I definitely noticed a difference in the style of the pickups, right? So those and the players, those are pure vintage Stratocaster. That's a vintage Stratocaster sound.
Absolutely.
These are definitely, I think, a little more modern. They sound a little fuller, maybe a little more mid-focused. I mean, they still sound great, but they're just a different sound.
Yeah, when I first started playing this, even without any pedals going, that's the first thing I thought was, oh, that sounds like a Strat,
Yep.
which I know it's supposed to, but
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice to get that familiar.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I guess we could talk about the differences between the two guitars, and then maybe talk about the things that we individually like about them.
Right. So, some of the big differences, as we've mentioned, is, for example, the tuners, locking tuners here, and then the classic gear vintage style tuners there. They both definitely have a satin neck. The the fretboard on the Sire is high gloss, and it's unfinished
Yep.
on the Fender. Um, the Fender has obviously the traditional Strat volume two tones setup. Screw-in trem arm. This has a push-in trem arm, so it just pops in and out and stays where you put it.
Those fretboard edges are rolled much more than the player. The Player 2 has rolled fretboard edges, but those are rolled much more.
Yep. And the fret ends on the Sire are very clearly, deliberately rounded. So they're, I didn't notice anything poking you in the
No,
Fender.
they did a good job finishing it, but that curve of the fret ends of the fret wires just, I think, goes along with how curved the actual fretboard is. And I mean, it's like butter, you know, playing that thing.
Now they both say they have medium jumbo nickel frets, but you notice something about the frets on this one compared to the frets on that one.
And maybe it's not the fret, maybe it's the high gloss versus the no finish. But I just find that it's easier to slide on the Fender than it is on the Sire.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel a lot of resistance to the sliding, but you're definitely feeling the frets on the Sire.
I play Fender Strats and probably a couple of my Schecters more than I play the Sire. So I would say I'm more used to these other guitars. So that's just if I got used to it, it would be no big deal. I mean, I don't think that's a deal breaker for anybody. It's just a difference.
Yep. Another difference here is that the Sire, while they both have maple neck, the Sire is a roasted maple neck with roasted maple fretboard, which should, in theory, be more stable. We're in Florida, and Florida is basically just warm and humid all the time. So we don't get a lot of the necks moving or fret ends sprouting or anything like that. However, if you're in an area of the world that actually has seasons, then you know, this may be more stable. As far as
being roasted, yeah,
with it being roasted, it should
they
be
did
a little
a
more
nice
stable.
job. I mean, I very much I like the roasted neck on that. They did a great job with it.
It really is a nice neck.
Yeah.
Some of the other areas we kind of touched on is the body, where the body joins the neck here on the Sire. It's a little more angled. There's this cutaway here to make it a little easier to get access up to the top fret. This Fender is definitely a Fender Stratocaster. It's got that big block on the back where the neck joins the body. Still pretty good for getting up to the...
You have to spend a little more money on a Fender to get, you know, some more comfort on the heel back here.
Yeah. The Fender Ultras have the rounded heel joint and the angled heel joint. So those are some of the differences, I think.
On the abalone dots versus the white dots.
Yep. Yeah.
And of course, obviously aesthetics, but I like the abalone. Those are pretty nice. I feel like and it's just the two guitars we're looking at the moment. But when I bought the Sire, I noticed that it had a little imperfection in the paint where there was like a little bump and there was a little like flake that wasn't there. Now it's glossed over, it's finished, but you can see that it's missing a little tiny bit of paint.
Yeah, it actually looks like, first, that bump feels like a run, right? They sprayed the clear coat and it ran a little bit. And didn't get buffed out. That black dot, though, the funny part about it is you can see the shadow under it. So it's kind of like something got caught in the clear coat and then it hardened.
Maybe.
But I mean, it's you know,
not a deal breaker.
No, definitely not a deal breaker. You really.
But to speak to that, and granted, it's probably it's much harder, I think, to finish that paint job versus this one.
Right.
But I bought this from Sweetwater, and when I noticed that, I asked them to send me another one, and I picked it online, and you know, because they have those great pictures of all their guitars. There's you know, the very bright lighting, and you can really zoom in and see what you're getting. But the second one that I got, this one looked better.
Yeah.
And I talked to a technician actually that day when I got the second one, and he looked over a few of them and he pointed out some imperfections in some of the others. So I think in general, maybe they just struggle with that run, or
It could be. I mean, I don't have an S7, but I have a Sire L7V, which is a single cut LP style with P90s. And now that's a stained finish. That's not a
right?
painted finish, and it's flawless. I looked very carefully. I couldn't find anything. Um, I've talked to people with much higher end guitars that have found stuff under the paint, or a
Yeah.
scratch that somebody didn't notice and they clear coated over it. So these things do happen, but
Yeah, and I mean, I kept it because it's a
mhm,
great guitar,
mhm,
and we're whatever 15 or 16 months out from my buying it.
mhm.
I don't care about the little spec. And really, if I wanted to make myself feel better, I could probably just drop it and scratch it myself, right? And then I would be,
Right,
then it would be relic.
that's right. And you could charge more for it. So now there's a little bit of a difference in the price. So this, when you originally bought it, you said 15 months ago, it was
It
$599,
was $599.
and today it's $599,
Yep.
which is very. If you've watched guitar prices over the past couple of years, that's very unusual. Now you bought this barely used.
I bought this from Pro Audio Star a few months ago, I think
Mhm,
2 or 3 months ago, and it was shortly after the series came
mhm,
out. But I bought it used, and they had plenty of new ones, but the used price was $629,
mhm,
and this is the humbucker version. So the single coil version new is $799. The humbucker version is $829. So I saved $200 on this
mhm.
guitar. I suspect that someone bought it and they did whatever. I don't know. Maybe they did a YouTube review of it and then sent it back
Yeah.
within the 30-day window to get their money back. But there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. All the plastics on it. I mean, I love this guitar, and I saved $200. It's like so because of the way I was able to buy this.
Mhm.
To me, they're the same price, but in reality, they're not. They're a
Right.
$200
Yeah,
difference.
there's about a $230 difference
Yeah.
between the two. Um, and the I think to some extent it just comes down to what you like about the features in terms of the two. The
Oh, and speaking of liking, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of any new videos we have coming out.
Absolutely. But I think part of it, like I said, comes down to what you like. I mean, this has definitely a little bit more of a modern S type feel. That is pure vintage Stratocaster. Um, what if you had to pick one? Which one would you prefer?
I would go with this guitar. If I walked into, say, Guitar Center and demoed both
Mhm,
guitars, I would take this one home. Um, Even though there are some features on that guitar that I normally would prefer, such as locking
Yep.
tuners, and I do like that those rolled edges
Mhm.
are super
Oh, it's very
super
comfortable.
comfortable. But the thing that would lead me to the Strat is I could just move around the fretboard more easily. And the other thing was, to me, that neck is just a little chunkier than this
Mhm,
neck, even though at the nut they're both 42 millimeters, and they're both C neck. I'm trying to remember now. Is that a modern C?
I think they both call them modern
Okay,
Cs. But yeah, the shape and the size are two different things, right? These could be a little bit different. I've not spent as much time with them as you have. Um, I have bigger hands, so I don't feel, and I like a chunkier neck, so I don't feel an issue with this one. And we didn't grab calipers and measure or
we did
anything like
not.
that.
Next time.
Yeah,
I really do like the
mhm,
roasted maple.
it's
I have
great.
a few roasted maple necks, and I although this is really nice because it's a nice satin neck.
Mhm,
And that's probably why I don't really gravitate towards Les Pauls and those types of guitars because they're usually painted
mhm.
and glossy
Yeah.
necks. And I have a couple of Epiphones there, and I've had Les Pauls and I've sold them. I just don't love
Mhm.
playing them. I wish I could.
Yeah.
Maybe I just haven't found that
Yeah.
that one Les Paul yet.
Mhm.
I need to go back to London and go to the Gibson garage again and
That's right.
try those out.
Yeah, go
So
back to Anderton's.
yeah.
So I know I have a Player One Strat. Um,
So which one would you be inclined to purchase if you were demoing these?
so if I were demoing them and not getting the deal you got on that one, it would be a tough choice because of the. I mean, this is just a phenomenal guitar for the money. It really is. But I would probably still go with the Fender, just for a couple of reasons. First off, it's a Fender Stratocaster, and like I've said probably in previous videos, guitar players tend to be kind of traditionalists, and the Stratocaster's been around for 75 years or so, and was it 70?
70.
70 years.
Yeah.
70 years, and it's a classic look, right? There's everything about that guitar
I know that because it says it right on my guitar. See?
Well, a couple of years ago they did. I had an American original Stratocaster that had an optional neck plate, and it was 75th anniversary. But I think that was the 75th anniversary
of the
Fender.
company. Yes.
Yeah,
Because I saw that too, and I was like, wait a minute, Strat's only been out since 1954. I can do math. So.
But honestly, I like the more traditional Stratocaster sound of that. I prefer that more vintage tone to the more modern pickups that are in the side. But honestly, they're both fantastic guitars. You could certainly gig either one of them, and be perfectly happy with them.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm leaving the house, I prefer to take a guitar that's not as expensive. So
But
that's a great one to bring it.
the funny part though is used to be with the more affordable guitars, and especially if you go back prior to the Player series, when Fender had the Made in Mexico Standard series, the first thing that you did when you got the guitar was start to figure out what you were going to upgrade, right?
Yep.
Swap out pickups, swap out electronics, maybe change the tuners.
We've talked about it before I even bought this. Same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The tuners and the pickups were going to go.
Yeah. But really now, I wouldn't change a thing about either one of these guitars.
No, I wouldn't either. Nope.
They're really, you're no longer in the situation where you get it and you immediately start changing things. I mean, Fender had, in the original Standard series, they had ceramic pickups. They sounded really good. I actually liked the way they sounded. They were almost P90-ish, but they were ceramic pickups, and I think Fender simply expected that people would swap them out, and they did. It's almost impossible now to find a used Fender Standard Stratocaster that has the original pickups in it.
I think, though, at this point, with guitars like the Sire Larry Carlton S7 and others like it, that Fender, they're forced to step up their game. Now, granted, they're still a little bit more expensive, but they are Fender, and that brand recognition does have value in and of itself.
Sure.
Financial value. So, however, on the plus side, they have, in my opinion, they've stepped up their game, because the quality control on this is outstanding. This is a great guitar. There's no cracking in the heel joint. The finish is, you'd have to really look hard and be more of a perfectionist than I am to find something wrong with it.
Yeah, and I had an American Standard Stratocaster from probably, somebody who knows Fender history much better than I do is going to probably comment, but I think it was from the early 2000s. And I would say that these Player II series are every bit in the same ballpark. Now, in those days, the American Standard series cost what those cost now. No, the quality is just fantastic on them. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us today. We hope that we kind of gave you a good view of the two guitars and the differences if you're considering something like this. If you have bought either one of these or are considering either one of us, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know what you like about either one of these guitars if you do own them.
Absolutely. And thank you, and we will see you in the next video.
Thanks a lot.